Mean Mower here, hanging out at the Mud King shop. Get a little work done on the Toro today. First thing I really got to get done is get the rear axle placement figured out. And have to pull some of this stuff off, get it out of the way, figure out where the bracket, the bearings is going to go, somewhere around here, and figure out where that's going to go so that we know where things are going to land, and we can make the front end stuff land in an appropriate place so that everything gets along when it's all said and done. So right now I'm going to take off at least this old rear piece and see what we got to work with. Let's see if she comes off easy or if it doesn't come off at all. But it came off easy. Think of that, Mud King.
Nice.
Sometimes life goes easy. That's about as small an amount of metal as you're ever going to see on that tractor right there. That's about as stripped down as it's ever going to be. So let's find out where we'll get them out these. What are you thinking?
First off, like this.
Oh, picky.
And I'm thinking right back there.
Right flush to the back?
Yep. Give ourselves as much wheelbase as we can get.
Since the last video, I've decided to make life easy, simple, and safe. I'm going to go same size tires front and back, and makes the gearing 1-to-1. Not a lot of thinking involved. If you're off at all and the front tires are trying to turn at a different rate than the back tires, it's not good. Things get very unhappy and they break. So I've ordered a set of 4, I think 22 by 11 tires, not horribly unlike these, and front and back. It's going to be big. It's going to be bigger than I planned, but I think we'll make it work. So, in positioning where these are going to go, figured out, I'm going to go on here, tack it. It's got to be square to the mower. And the other thing that this has to accomplish is it's got to be low enough so that when the sprocket goes on, it's got to clear this, and got to run chain from the transmission down through and to the sprocket. And I've checked this just by centering and sort of putting it up over here and checking it that way, and it looks like flush to the back, going to have just enough clearance at the top of the sprocket and enough space to run the chain down through the hole that's up here. I think everything's going to go just about right. Now before we can weld these into place, going to have to hit them with a grinder to clean up the metal, to prep it, to hit the top, outside, bottom edge, and inside. And we'll probably hit this too. Safety first. So, with the help of the Mud King, my master welder buddy, we got the mounting brackets welded on. We used the back to keep them flush as a reference, and then we threw a straight edge on the top and checked them from underneath with a square to make sure they were mounted somewhere near right, if that makes any sense. So now before we tighten everything, we've thrown the axle in, the housing for the bearings, and the bearings on there, and that way as we tighten these in place, it keeps the bearings true. And in just a second we're going to tighten these up and I'll have a rear axle that turns. It's amazing. So there we are. Nice rear axle, hubs, and the sprocket, which we could have thrown on for visual effect, but we haven't yet. That'll live in there. Nice amount of clearance there. Chain drive, transmission, down to the sprocket. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So we've got this assembled with the axle in place. Thrown the sprocket in to see what we've got space-wise. I've got the hubs on just because it makes me happy to see them there, pretending there's wheels there. So this sprocket sticks out a little bit beyond the back of this. So A, just to reinforce what we've thrown on here, and B, to close it in. I think we're going to end up putting on a piece thus and thus, and making sure to clear this so there's space to get the chain in. And the Mud King happens to have on hand about what we're looking for. We'll cut this to size, mount it on just like a little salt box roof. Put that on like that. Fill in the corners that we'll create on the sides, little triangular pieces, and that'll sturdy that up quite a bit. And when we're done, I plan to close in everything I can on the bottom to some degree, so somehow this will all be somewhat enclosed unit. Obviously we need to be able to... Let's let Mud King take his phone call.
Sorry.
I think his lady's getting out of work, wants to know where he's at. But yeah, we're going to try to get this closed in to some degree to keep it all safe, but we still need to be able to access it so that we can work on it should anything ever go wrong. Not that anything ever will, but if you make it so that you can get to it, you'll never need to. If you make it so that you can't, something will go wrong immediately. So nice to have a rear end installed, something to look at. And there will be a second sprocket at some point. This, as I said, runs from the transmission to the axle here, and there'll be a second sprocket running from the back axle to the front, and that will create four-wheel drive, which is so we cut the raw material to the size we need, and we're going to hold it in place. We ground the edges again, which you always got to do, clean it up before you can weld. And we're going to hold it at an angle that we think looks nice, clears the sprocket, tack weld it, take a peek at it, make sure we like it, and then weld it for real. You need me to hold it? You got it?
Gotcha.
Actually, yeah, do it up. Looks good. I like that. Looks like a bit of a 45. Should be nice and strong by the time we reinforce it. Nicely done, Mud King.
Anything for a friend.
Keeping it hot. God, he even cleaned it up for me. What a guy. God, you spoil me. Some serious welding. Wicked. Chop that off. Yeah, we've got the beginnings of a back end here.
You are on.
Oh, that's always exciting. Lesson number 1, tools work much better when plugged in. I'll remember that. Very good. This is cut off take 2. So I think that's going to do it for the work we can do today. Run out of time, and more importantly, ran out of material in the process of boxing this in. Pretty much used up all the scrap we had. Obviously at some point we'll close in the sides and keep going with it, but for today that's what we got. Thank you, Mud King. All the welding. You know, I don't have any experience at it, and I don't want this to be where I learn, especially not stuff like, you know, mounting the rear end, you know. So really appreciate all you do for me, Mud King. Thank you for the welding help and your expertise, and really happy to have a rear end on here that you know, functions and looks right, and you know, it's starting to done so much taking stuff off. It's nice to start putting stuff together, and yeah, done as much as we can tonight. Gonna need to get some more steel, aren't we, King?
I'm afraid so, sir.
Yeah, so we used up all the scrap we got, but that does it for this update, and see you next time.